For many years I really thought I was a very empathic person, thought I was sensitive and would be focused on other people and their needs and their wants. But as I went along this spiritual path, I began to realize more and more that that wasn't the case. Yes, I listened to people, but I listened with a mind that was constantly framing what they were saying and how it meant to what it meant to me, how it affected me, or some kind of rejoinder or some kind of additional comment. I couldn't just focus on them and what they were saying. My mind was just constantly coming back to me and what it was all about to me. That probably doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really is to me. Because if I really am walking this spiritual path, I want to be open to not only God, of course, but to other people and what they've got to say and their thoughts and their experiences. I want to learn from them and I want to share with them. And to the extent that I can't really listen or really focus, really represents the fact that I really don't have a good sense of empathy. I really don't seek to empathize with them. I seek to debate with them sometimes, add to what they've got to say sometimes, but the focus is all on me and not on them. And I don't like that. And so I have learned over the years to try to listen better, to try to focus more, to try to be open. An example of that might be the fact that I have a certain reservation, shall we say, about people who quote the Bible all the time, who are great students of the Bible. And so I sort of had a gut reaction against that, like they know what the Bible says, but they don't necessarily live it. And so that's sort of a bias I have that keeps me from really understanding where they're coming from. And so what I have to do today is to recognize that I have that bias, I have that prejudice that will keep me from really understanding and not only listen, but seek out that point of view, to listen to it, to try to understand where people are coming from. Everybody has a different place that they come from. They really do. They have their own experience, their own background, everything. And for me to use my filters to try to judge what they've got to say, rather than just listening and absorbing what they've got to say, is a big mistake that I make a lot. One of the more interesting classes I teach is about paradigms. Paradigms are basically filters that we've got built into our mental processes that filter out information that's not consistent with what we believe and readily admits information that we do believe. So what happens, of course, and the reason for that is pretty obvious. If you stop and think about how many impressions come in to us through our eyes and ears and senses, just a huge number of impressions come in, and our brain has to be able to filter those impressions out in order to have them make some sense and give it some material to work with. And so we develop these filters over time, and they're not bad things, they're normal things, they really are. But when they come into play, where they're a problem is when my filters close out people and information and things that I don't necessarily agree with. Yeah, and the program that we teach says that the only way to deal with it is just to be aware of them. And when you're aware of them, just to be work on being open. Don't let those filters keep you from hearing and understanding and identifying even with some of this input. So that's maybe a little off the spiritual path, you may think, but it really isn't. They talk about being selfish and self-centered. And believe me, selfishness and self-centeredness is not the key to spirituality for me. Being aware of myself is one thing. Being totally focused on how I want the world to be and trying to make the world the way I want it to be is another thing. So when it comes to empathy, I have to work hard today and every day to really focus on the other person. You know, they say, walk a mile in my moccasins to understand where I'm coming from. And it's that whole thing of really identifying, listening to and identifying with another human being that helps me establish a spiritual connection with them. And ultimately, that's what I'm looking for. Not just to listen, but to have a real connection on my spiritual journey. I hope this has been helpful to you. It's a continuous struggle for me, but I wish you well, and I hope that you can empathize with me as I struggle today to work this spiritual program. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you later.